Hi everyone, it's Amy. I'm very glad that you are back. Today, kind of a long video. Hopefully I'll still keep it under 10 minutes. But I'm going to talk to you today about communication and some communication styles. We always like to think that we're saying exactly what we mean, but sometimes that's not really the case. Communication is the basis for every interpersonal relationship. And it is the key to a long and healthy relationship. Good communication reduces misunderstandings and it strengthens bonds. Communication is not only through speech, but it is also through what we call nonverbal communication. Your body movements, your gestures, your facial expressions, hand movements, etc. all convey how you feel, even sometimes when you don't realize what you're doing. You might not realize you're doing any of these things. Sometimes people will know that you're sad or you're angry just by looking at your eyes. One eyeball roll, whether you mean to do it or not, can be completely infuriating and shows a lot about what you think about the speaker and what the speaker is saying when someone's talking to you. You also need to be aware of the tone and the pitch when you're speaking. You shouldn't be too loud or too soft. You have to choose your words carefully, too. Think twice before you speak. One wrong word can change an entire conversation, or it can be a conversation ender. Or even worse, it can be a relationship ender. All right? Express your feelings clearly. Be polite. Never shout, even if your partner's doing something wrong. Anything that's abusive, fighting, if you're criticizing, can spoil a relationship. Look, once you say something, it is out there. People say, I take that back. But realistically, you can't take something back. All right? You can't. Once it's out there, once you've said it, it's out there. And the person you said it to, they can replay it in their mind anytime they want. All right? Be a patient listener. We spoke about that in the last video. Sometimes people think you're a great conversationalist and a great communicator just because you're a good listener. And there's also email. Email and text is a way of communicating. If you don't get to speak to your partner a lot, maybe you live far away, whatever it is, sometimes rattle off an email to let somebody know you're thinking about them, or a text. However, I caution that email and text should never be a substitute for real verbal communication. And be very careful about your emails, especially in the workplace, because once it's there, again, it's there. It can be forwarded to somebody. It can be shared with somebody else, so you may or may not want to see it. So make sure your language is something that you would not mind having repeated. All right. Let me give you an example of bad communication. All right. Tom is feeling angry. He is due to go for his driving test next week, and for the past month, his dad has been promising to take him out for driving, but it never seems to happen. Tom feels frustrated because he needs the practice before he goes for the test. On Thursday, Tom came home from school, and he asked his dad if they could go for a drive. His dad said he couldn't because he had some work to do. Well, Tom just saw red and exploded. He said, "You don't give a damn about me. You're a liar. You never do what you say you're going to do." In turn, his dad got fired up and called him a spoiled brat and said that he can't think about anything but himself. This situation is a really good example about how our poor communication can lead to conflict and to some really bad feelings. Let's have a look at some errors that would have fixed this so it wouldn't have turned out into two angry outbursts. So what went wrong? First of all, mind reading. Tom expected his dad to know what he was thinking and feeling. You can't do that. People are not responsible for reading your mind. All right? He should have told his dad how important it was for him to practice the driving. All right? And maybe his dad forgot that he had that test coming up or when it was. He needs to express his feelings clearly. All right? On the other hand, maybe his dad should have known, okay, but clear communication here would have solved a lot of problems. Also, this conversation ended between the two of them with an outburst and people leaving, walking away. And Tom did not communicate probably prior to this until he got super angry. Maybe he should have asked his dad the day before. And they can't leave things like this. Now both of them are angry. Each time his dad canceled prior, maybe Tom should have said something then instead of waiting till he got to the boiling point. All right? He also said things to his dad like, you always do this. There was a lot of always and nevers in there, which you shouldn't use. Again, the other thing that was wrong with this was labeling. He called his dad a liar. He said, you never do anything that you say you're going to do. His dad called him a spoiled brat. We don't do these things. These things alienate people from each other, and it makes it very hard to come back together when the conflict is over, because, like I said, once it's out there, we already have hurt feelings. All right, so here are some different styles of communication, now that we've seen what bad communication is. First of all, there's assertive communication. This type of communication involves you sharing your thoughts and your feelings and telling people what you want without violating the rights of others. That is the key to assertive communication. You can say how you feel without it being at the expense of someone else. The overarching theme in assertive communication is just that. You are not violating the rights of others. And you're thinking that although you and I think differently, that doesn't mean that we can't be respectful of one another. And we're equally entitled to our opinions and our thoughts. Assertive communication is spoken in a calm, clear tone and with good eye contact. Then there is aggressive communication. This also involves stating your honest feelings, your thoughts, and your opinions. But the difference is that these thoughts and feelings and opinions are often at the expense of someone else's feelings. Aggressive communication can be loud and it can be direct. And oftentimes there is sarcasm used, rhetorical questions used, threats, profanity, absolutes like always and never, etc. There might be finger tapping, hands on hips, all right? Glaring. We don't like any of that. The underlying message here is that I am stronger and I am right and you are weaker and you are wrong. Many times people give aggressive communicators what they want just to get rid of them. Now, just because you get what you want doesn't mean that you're an effective communicator in the long run. Eventually, people will resist your ideas, even if they're good ones. All right, then we have a passive communicator. That's the last one we're going to talk about today. In this type of communication, thoughts are expressed indirectly or partially. The person usually speaks softly, and there's usually very poor eye contact. The problem with a passive communicator is they expect people to read their minds and magically meet their needs. If you communicate this way, you may do it for fear of rejection, and then you aren't disappointed when your needs aren't met. The problem is that you never get your way, and you lack self-respect, and in turn, you lack respect from others. The goal here is to be an assertive communicator, and here's how you do that. Phrase thoughts with your perspective about the situation, using phrases like, I think. This means you're not blaming. There are no put-downs. You are using I statements rather than you statements. You phrase thoughts with things like, I feel. Now, don't substitute an opinion for a feeling. But if someone understands your feelings, they are more likely to listen. They might disagree with you, but you have framed it in a relatable way. And don't forget to express your wants. Once you've told people how you feel about something, you have to tell them what you'd like them to do. You say things like, I'd prefer or I like, clearly stating your wishes and needs. But be specific. You're asking someone to change their behavior here, not their attitude. In the end, a sentence should be constructed like this: I feel sad when you speak to me in a sarcastic way. I would prefer you speak to me in a considerate way. So there you've told someone how you feel. You told someone specifically what they've done, and you've been specific about what you want in return. It makes it very clear. There's no put downs, there's no finger pointing, there's no blaming, and it's done in a way that is respectful. All right? Next time we are going to talk about relationships. All right? Until then, please subscribe to this channel. Feel free to get in touch with me through Facebook, through Twitter, through Instagram, or through this channel. And until next time, please be well.